Good Thursday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Some breaking news. Odell Beckham Jr. has signed with the Los Angeles Rams. We'll have a little bit more on that later in the show. Ashley Bastock will join us from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, the newest Browns reporter. Ashley will join us a little bit later in the show. We begin with some news out of Berea as Myles Garrett, Takk McKinley, Donovan Peoples-Jones and J.C. Tretter all did not practice. Donovan Peoples-Jones, personal reasons, not injury related. Some good news, Jarvis Landry, Malik Jackson, both on the practice field as well. And this is always a good sight as out in Berea, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, number 28, the talented rookie, back moving around pretty good. They activated him off of the injured list, got him out on the field in Berea. Joe Woods talked about JOK, how he looked, and if he might be good to go on Saturday or on Sunday against the Patriots.
Hey Joe, how did JOK look yesterday in his first day back?
Good.
Are you optimistic he can play Sunday?
Yes, I am very optimistic that he can play Sunday. Speed, coverage ability, tackling, blitzing, everything. He's a very talented player. There may be a little bit of rust, and again, we'll see where he's at as we progress through the week. But I think he just adds another dimension to our defense for sure. He's done a good job. He takes notes. You look at, he has his notebook. He has his own little system of how he does things. And I think the linebacker coaches, Coach Tarver, Coach Bloom, they do a great job. He's always in the meetings. They make sure he's engaged. There's different type of things they do. Just try to create walkthroughs for him. So mentally, he's been involved. Hopefully we get him out on the field today and kind of see where he's at. But I think there won't be a big drop off, maybe a little bit of rust, but we definitely want to get him back as soon as we can.
Let's welcome in Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. Jeff, that's a big news. That was before practice. That was Joe Woods talking, and he just adds another weapon to that defense.
And boy, can they use it. They sure, especially against a team like New England that loves to throw the ball to the running back out of the backfield and use their tight end quite a bit. That's exactly why JOK is on this football team, and it's a great time to have him back. I love the simplicity of Joe Wood's answer. How did he look? He looked good. That's what we want to hear. That's what we need to see. And with all the other injury things that are going on with this team, it's great to get an impact player back. If you remember, before he got hurt, he was one of the top, not just rookie linebackers, he was one of the top linebackers in the NFL for what he had done. And again, the X's and O's matchup this week with New England, it's vital to have him out there. Taki, Malcolm Smith, they've tried, they've played reasonably well, but they cannot do the things that JOK can do. And as Woods talked about, the ability to blitz, the ability to cover, the ability to do pretty much anything that you would want a linebacker to do in an NFL game. JOK does that at a pretty darn high level. So getting him back is a huge shot in the arm for the defense.
So we saw practice video of him today after practice. JOK talked to the media and was asked how the ankle felt and how it's progressing.
It responded well. I'm glad I went out there at least to go full speed and kind of test it out and things like that. We're still taking it day by day, but, I'm definitely looking forward to playing if I can this weekend.
Oh, okay. You're not sure if you're good to go yet?
Not fully sure yet. Taking it day by day.
And Jeff, again, you probably want to ramp him up, bring him back into it. You got some games a little bit later down the schedule. I'm looking at those 2 Raven games where you want him full go because there's a certain quarterback that he needs to be chasing down.
Absolutely. We've talked about the idea of having a Lamar Jackson killer, quote unquote, to slow down what the Ravens like to do. And if he can slow down the running part of that, then the passing game will come better. That makes it a lot easier for the defenders, the rest of the defense around him to do it. So, yeah, you don't want to necessarily burn him out in a game against New England that, not to tip the hand too much, but it's winnable without him. But he makes it also easier to win it. And every game right now is critical. If you look at how jumbled the AFC standings are, getting him back, even if he only plays, 40 to 50% of the snaps this weekend, I still think that's probably a good way to get his feet wet, get him ready for the stretch run and the really important set of games that are coming up. I remember there's a bye week in there, too, that I think is going to do him well. If you can get him a couple of weeks of action, where he's starting to feel comfortable, get back, the defense understands how to react around him. I think then you get the bye week, and then you're feeling pretty good about where you're at after that.
All right, CBSSports.com has come out with their midseason predictions for Player of the Year. There were 7 folks voting on this, and we have a toss-up between T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. Important to note, Myles Garrett did not practice, dealing with a foot issue, but they do expect him to be good to go, and he has been outstanding. That's the kind of year Myles Garrett is having. He's on pace to potentially break the NFL sack record.
I think back to a year ago, and we were having the same conversation back then about those two being the front runners, and then it sort of went off the rails for Myles. He got COVID, missed a couple games, came back, couldn't get his breath. I'm hopeful that this year he can sustain it, because I do think that he's been more integral to the Browns' defensive success than what T.J. Watt has been for Pittsburgh. And that's not to slight Watt in any way. That guy's great. But I would personally, I might be a little biased on it, I think Myles deserves it. And I think if he goes out and gets the NFL sack record, certainly if he gets 20 sacks, and he's on pace to do that, it's going to be hard to not give it to him. I saw the third name there was Aaron Donald. The fact that both of those guys are over him, and you look at what that guy's doing with the Rams team, that tells you what kind of impact and what kind of national respect that Myles Garrett is finally and consistently getting. And that doesn't even take into account the endemic holding that he suffers on every single snap, Dave. It's tough to watch him get held and still wind up being that just proves how superb Myles Garrett is, because he is getting so many uncalled holding penalties in every game. It's obvious, he just throws his arms up in frustration after the play, like, what do I have to do to get a call? And he's still very effective. He's just so much fun to watch. I really hope that he gets it. I hope that he can sustain the pace this year.
Yeah, it's almost like because he is so physically gifted that he's being penalized for that. This one, you're going to like this one, Jeff. So Bill Belichick from Patriots.com, they call it the Bellastrator, and he has Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett on the Bellastrator. Let's take a look.
Show us what Clowney can do and show us what Garrett can do.
Well, this is Clowney up here at the top of the screen, number 90, and Garrett down here at the bottom of the screen, number 95. And when you watch this play, you see both guys get to the quarterback. It's really just a question of who can get there first. There they both are, right? There's Garrett on the inside spin, and there's Clowney on the edge. And Clowney just beats him there by about a half a step. So either way, this is a lot of trouble for the quarterback. And these two guys are just right on top of the quarterback before the receivers can even get started into their route. So they're really a handful. If we watch this play from the end zone, just see a little bit closer. Start over here with Garrett on the right. Has that great speed rush where he chops the lineman's, the tackle's arms down and run the corner. And here he goes to the chop and then comes to the inside spin. I mean, this is a great move right here. And then over on the left side here, defensive left side, you see Clowney with that, that long left step there. And again, chops that arm. And there they are. I mean, you can't get there much quicker than this. This looks like, almost like practice reps.
And when you listen to Bill Belichick kind of break that down, it's very interesting to see what a defensive mind sees in Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney.
It is, and we get a lot of, as Cleveland fans who remember when Bill Belichick was the coach in Cleveland, it's hard to remember just how fun he is when he's breaking down film like that. He's really good on those. His personality comes out. He's very engaged. It's much different than the press conference with Bill Belichick, where he's giving you the monotone, one-word answers. To see him light up the way he did, looking at the Browns defense that's about to go after Mac Jones, who, by the way, is a lot less mobile than the quarterback that they sacked there in Kyler Murray. It's a definite sign of respect. Look, Belichick, he's been around long enough. He knows he doesn't need to play those silly reindeer games. This is a guy who's going to give praise where it's due. He's not going to make every single player out to be the greatest thing ever. I think he's learned that lesson pretty well. But he knows that he's dealing with a lot this week. And this could be his way of getting his offensive line hey, guys, get ready for this. This is sort of the public, hey, we need to be ready for this because these guys can make life very difficult for us. Rookie quarterback in there. Mac Jones has been good, but this is a different level of pressure than what he's seen from the likes of the Miami and the Jets of the world. This is a big step up, and it's nice to see Belichick again. Just the enthusiasm that he gives, you understand why he's more popular in league circles than he is outside of it, because that's the Belichick that we want to see. That's the kind of Belichick that you want coaching your team, and obviously it works very well for New England.
Yeah, and you see why players kind of respond to him as well. All right, let's listen in. Myles Garrett mic'd up. This is kind of interesting as well.
Throw back to pass, and Myles Garrett's got him. Another sack. I got him for 2 today.
I had 10.5. This is 12 now. You had 10.5 going through the game? How are you, bro? See, the greatest of my generation. That's how I'm trying to be. Go get Defensive Player of the Year, bro. Appreciate you.
Trey Hendrickson telling him to go get Defensive Player of the Year after the Bengals game. It's always interesting to listen to the guys mic'd up on the field and how aware they are of everything that's going on.
It is, and some guys play it off. They're like, oh, I don't really know how many sacks I have, or like, I didn't know that I was close to that record. Myles is aware. I think most players are, but Myles letting in on it. He's so much fun to watch and so much, just an engaging guy. It's really easy to root for him. He's got a chance to do so much good. Again, New England is a good matchup for him. I love the fact that he got to Joe Burrow, and you'll notice he learned there. He brought Joe Burrow, he tackled him, didn't try to land on him, made sure that he landed, onto the side, didn't get the roughing penalty or anything like that. That's a little bit of a maturation from him. And then the respect at the end from Trey Hendrickson, who led the NFL in sacks last year, cashed in, and by the way, he's having a pretty good year for Cincinnati. But Myles, I think Hendrickson sees the writing on the wall that he's not going to win the sack title this year. I think Myles is hopefully going to run away with it. But yeah, that's the mic'd up things. Sometimes you get some guys that just aren't that great. But if you remember last year, they had Sheldon Richardson mic'd up, and remember they were fighting over a sack on the sideline. That's the kind of banner I think the fans really enjoy seeing that. I know I do. It makes me feel like, okay, yeah, these guys really are into it. They are pushing each other and they're aware of the stats as much as they try to downplay it, as much as the coaches will tell them to downplay it. It's just a nice little peek behind the veil there.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Bill Belichick will talk about Myles Garrett. We'll also shift our attention to the offensive side of the ball. We'll hear, can Nick Chubb go? What do the Browns do if he can't? Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions, lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
5-4 Browns getting ready for the 5-4 Patriots Sunday, 1 o'clock in Foxborough. So a little bit earlier in the show, we showed you the Bellastrator with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. Bill Belichick talked about the challenge of going up against Myles Garrett.
Everything. Power, explosion, speed, instincts. He do it all. Just got a tremendous skill set. Smart player, very instinctive player. Reacts extremely quickly. He's as tough a matchup as there is in the league.
And Jeff Riston, there is your Bill Belichick press conference guy. He asked about Myles Garrett. He's special. Pretty simple answer.
The lack of enthusiasm there is the Belichick that we know and probably don't like so much. But yeah, everything that he said is absolutely true, and he doesn't downplay it. He's just very low key about it. This is the Bill Belichick who's preparing the media for afterwards for like, okay, this is why this guy killed us because he's very talented, smart, instinctive, all the above. again, I like the other Belichick better. I want to see more of the Billustrator. I think that's probably the way to go. That was much more lucid and in-depth than what we got there from the soundbite. But again, the respect for Garrett, it's very clear that they have it, and let's hope that he acts upon it and makes Belichick look very prescient on this, because it's clear that they're going to devote their game plan to trying to stop Myles Garrett. But then there's that Clowney guy on the other side who worries him a little bit too, which is kind of nice.
So Nick Chubb, still don't know if he's going to go or not. Alex Van Pelt said it would be possible. Again, he is vaccinated, so you need the two negative tests 48 hours apart. No update is ever provided on that, so we don't know where Nick Chubb stands. But Alex Van Pelt was asked, does the game plan change if Nick Chubb can't go?
I don't think so. I don't think that's what we have great confidence that Dearness can carry the load. He's shown that he has, so I don't think there's any reason why we would change our mindset.
Do you think New England defensively would approach you differently if Nick isn't out there?
That's a tough question. They do a great job regardless of who's out there. They've been in that system for a long time. It looks very similar to 15 years ago when I lined up against them. They have the same body types, scheme-wise. They do a lot of the same things, and they're really good at it, really well coached. I don't know if they feel like they need to change for us. I think they like who they are.
And again, you wouldn't imagine they're going to try to take away anything other than the Browns' running game. At least that's my thought.
Oh, absolutely. Because if they make a team one-dimensional, that's where their pass rush can pin their ears back a little bit. So they're going to certainly want to limit. Look, Dearness Johnson's a very quality running back. He's a starter on a lot of other teams, just happens to be on a loaded Browns offense. This is why they kept him. This is why they valued him and didn't want to let him get away, because, quite frankly, he's going to get better offers. But this is where the value is in having the depth and having a guy who fits the style of the outside zone run scheme that they run so well. It's not going to be easy against the way that the Patriots love to play the run defense from the inside to the outside rather than the outside to the inside. So this is a game where if you're going to break it, you're going to have to start inside and then get outside. Dearness can do that, but that's something that Nick Chubb's a little bit better at. So I really hope that we do see Chubb, because I think his style fares a little bit better. But Dearness he'll be able to get his own. I wonder a little bit if he'll be able to, break more of the tackles the way Chubb does. And he certainly doesn't have the stiff arm that Chubb does. Like Van Pelt said there, the linebackers, they're running 250, 255. That's a little bit different than the 215-pound guys that you can throw to the ground with your left arm while you're carrying the ball on the right. It's a little bit tougher when they have a little bit more meat on them. So I'm still optimistic. I hope that Chubb can go. It certainly makes things easier. I am confident in Dearness, as Mr. Van Pelt said there, but it's tough when you don't have your best. I think that's probably the easiest way to say it.
Well, Bill Belichick was asked that same question. Talked about the run game, and if the run game changes without Nick Chubb. Here's Bill Belichick again.
They do a good job each week with the running game. Some of it depends on their opponent. They set things up to gain advantageous matchups or blocking angles, so forth. And Coach Callahan does a great job of that. But all their backs are good. They've all been productive. I don't know. We'll have to see what they come up with. I'm not sure. They do both. They got gap plays. They got zone plays. They got the mid zone plays, outside plays. The backs are really good. So, the point of entry could be one place. The back could end up somewhere else. You got to do a good job across the board, and they usually get a couple guys win on their blocks, and so there's space in there somewhere. Tight ends do a good job, all of them. They use all three tight ends, and a fullback, and 11 personnel. So they kind of run and wherever they can attack you, wherever you don't match up well with them, then they'll exploit that.
And again, Jeff, there's more insight in there than normal from Bill Belichick. That's a pretty big compliment to the Browns as far as they'll find a matchup they can exploit and they'll go do it.
And that's definitely, being complimentary towards Kevin Stefanski, towards Van Pelt, towards, he mentioned offensive line coach Bill Callahan there. I like the fact that he brought up the tight ends because I think they're a huge factor in this game, not just in the run game, but also in the pass game. So if you can occupy those linebackers, and they have to worry about David Njoku leaking out, after he throws a block. If they have to worry about Austin Hooper, hitting a little bit of an out route, or Harrison Bryant cutting up the seam as he releases out. That keeps those linebackers from attacking the run game so much. So I think that's a huge matchup to watch in this game. I think that's going to be a large part of where the Browns' success or lack thereof, if they don't, will come from. So it's nice of Belichick to point that out. And I tell you what, they do have a matchup here. The Browns, they are a very talented team. They might have lost a wide receiver, but I don't think we really noticed any drop-off in performance from the overall offense. And they're going to have their chances at this one. They have to make sure that they take advantage and execute well, which is basically what Belichick is saying to his defense. Hey, guys, as we all know, Belichick does talk to his team through the media very somberly, but he did it there, and he's telling his defense, hey, guys, make sure that you're making the plays that you have in front of you, because if not, this Browns team is going to beat us in a number of ways, and that's not what he wants.
Here's something that's really interesting. So this is forced missed tackle percentage from the running backs. Now, we know Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, 29% missed tackles, both of them, second best. D'Ernest Johnson, the third guy in the running back room there, is 27%, fourth best among running backs. Now, the sample size is a little bit less, but it kind of goes with what you were talking about. When he's been given the opportunity, he's been really good.
He's a good player. Again, he could start on any number of teams around the league, and he's capable in the passing game too. He's not just a guy that you hand the ball to and you have to take him off the field when you're going to throw the ball. He's not Kareem. Few are, and it will be great to get him back sooner than later. Hopefully, right after the bye would be wonderful to get Kareem back. But they're in decent hands here. And if John Kelly can get back from his COVID example, that if Nick can't. They do have a little bit of depth there. They've got some ways to make things happen. But again, fingers are still crossed for Nick Chubb to play in this game because I do think that they are definitely a different offense without him. And as good as D'Ernest has been, if they can get a 1-2 punch out of that, that's something that can really wear down the Patriots defense because, Nick showed that he has the open field speed, but D'Ernest is probably a little bit faster in getting through the hole initially. And then Nick's sort of the guy who, he takes the contact, goes through it, and then accelerates out. So that slightly contrasting style and D'Ernest's ability to, get outside on a toss play and take that a little bit wider than what Chubb likes. Chubb likes to, cut that back in or go right off the tackle's side. And D'Ernest will bounce that out a little bit wider. It gives them a different look, and it gives the offense a little bit more balance, so it makes them tougher to defend. So, again, hopeful that Chubb gets back. Please get back. But if not, the world is not going to end if they have to ride with D'Ernest Johnson because that guy can play too.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take another timeout. On the other side of the break, we will hear from D'Ernest Johnson if he has to go. Plus, Colin Cowherd on are the Browns going to make the playoffs? Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Browns getting ready for the Patriots. Both teams 5-4. Still don't know if Nick Chubb or Demetric Felton will be available Sunday. If not, that means D'Ernest Johnson will be the lead running back. Johnson talked about approaching this as though he's got to be ready to play, and is he going to be ready to go?
I mean, it just means a lot, man, that the team trusted me, that they have a lot of faith in me just to go out there and make plays. That speaks a lot. Man, I'm just ready to go out there and just try to go 1-0 this week. That's our main focus, just going 1-0, and when I get the opportunity, just trying to make the most of them.
And Jeff Risdon, so Patriots defense is a good one, but Dearness Johnson ran pretty well against a pretty good Broncos defense on a Thursday night when the Browns needed him. So he does have a track record of coming through.
He does. And boy, I'm just reflecting back to that game. That was fun. The final score didn't reflect how fun that game was from a Browns standpoint. But that's the type of game that they're going to have to win against New England. You know, a 17-14 game, a 20-16 game. I think you're going to see that. I trust in the Browns defense pretty well here. It's going to be a case. One of the things that Nick Chubb really gives you as a runner is he can break the big play. We saw it with the 60-yard touchdown run last week. Can Dearness do that? Well, against Denver, he did. So I'm hopeful that they'll be able to get one or two against that. Look, this is a Patriots team that's designed to prevent the big play, and especially in the run game. So there's a lot of pressure on Dearness on this, but we've seen him every time his name has been called. He's answered the bell very impressively. So I'm hopeful that it will be another game like Denver, where it's fun to watch. You know, they get some good production out of it. It's exciting. It feels like the Browns are more in control than they probably actually were. But you come out of it with a win and you're happy because then you're firmly in the playoff mix and you beat a team that, by the way, is also fighting for the same playoff spot you are. There's going to be a lot of those games coming up in the next 9 weeks with the jumbled AFC. You saw the Bengals 2 weeks ago; they were the number 1 seed. Now they're the number 10 seed after just 2 games. It's so turbulent, so topsy-turvy. All these games really matter a lot. So, go get it, Browns, and go get it, Dearness, because we need you.
All right, so Colin Cowherd from The Herd on the Browns and the playoffs this year.
What's the one team in the NFL now that you look at and think, oh, they'll get in? To me, it's the Browns. Listen, there are certain ingredients in the NFL that if you have those ingredients, you better make a very good cake. The Browns have arguably a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. The Browns have, in my opinion, the best running game in the NFL. It's top 2 or 3. And they also have right now a top 3 defense in terms of yards allowed. Okay, if they don't make the playoffs, you need to grow up. It's on Baker. Folks, the LA Chargers this morning have the 9th best offensive line, the 22nd best run game, the 23rd rated defense, and they're a 4 seed. Why? Because they got a great young quarterback.
Well, Jeff, it's not that simple. I mean,
I was going to say the Chargers have played. They played the Lions, who are terrible.
Right.
They've had a pretty easy schedule. They played the Jets. Browns haven't had that luxury.
And the Browns have been really beat up. I know everybody has injuries, but it's been position group specific. They played 2 without their tackles. Now it's hit the running back room. There was a time it was the defense, the cornerbacks. So, but there is with everything he says, there's a level of truth to what he's saying.
Oh, yeah, the expectation should be high, and I understand he's right. This is a playoff team. The roster absolutely screams playoffs, and if they don't make the playoffs, you and I and a lot of people who appear on this program are going to have a lot of fun dissecting that in January and February. What went wrong? Who deserves the blame? What has to change? I'm hopeful that we don't have to have those conversations, quite frankly, as much as I enjoy being on. I don't want to talk about the negatives on that. I want to talk about a playoff team. I want to talk about a team that's hosting a playoff game or 2, and that's still very much at play. I don't think, look, his relationship with Baker Mayfield, or lack thereof, is very well documented. If you don't know it, you can Google it and find out very quickly that there might not be anybody who hates anybody in professional sports more than Colin Cowherd hates Baker Mayfield. And he's proud of that. I think that Baker has played very well, again, he's got a separated shoulder. That shoulder is not healthy. Obviously, it's not a throwing shoulder, but I think the Baker we're seeing the last couple of weeks, if you're blaming things on him, you probably haven't been watching this team very closely. And that's probably true of Mr. Cowherd, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. He's been the least of the problems the last couple of weeks. So, Baker Mayfield, talk just about the deep ball, taking chances, and how this offense functions better when they can do that.
For me, it's, I'm the one out there. You have to see it. You have to feel as the game's going on. It's just a matter of keeping defenses on their toes and take advantage of these one-on-one shots. I've always been a quarterback with one-on-one plays, and with our guys, I trust those guys to make a play on the ball. And so giving them a chance is first and foremost the most important thing. So it's about making plays when you need to, and just being a guy to, obviously take advantage of those one-on-one situations.
And Jeff, they did that really well against the Bengals. That's the reason that offense put up 41 points.
Absolutely. And you're going to get those shots against the Patriots, too. It's not going to be as easy, although they don't rush the passer as well as the Bengals do. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz, David Njoku, those guys have the speed. They have the ability to create those mismatches. We're going to need to see more out of Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins. They've got to catch the balls that are thrown to them on the underneath routes, too. Because if you're so reliant on hitting throwing the ball 55 yards down the field, that's a once or a twice a game thing. But they do have to respect it. What you have to take care of if you're Baker and if you're the receivers on the Browns is the other opportunities that lead to that, or play off of that. If you're hitting, it's 1st and 10 and you throw a 6-yard slant to Jarvis, he's got to catch that ball, and later he's got to get 6 or 7 or 8 out of it. They can't fall into that 2nd and 10, 3rd and 11 trap, because when they know you're taking the shot down the field when you have to, it makes it a lot easier to defend. And I've always admired Baker's ability to take chances, especially on advantageous downs. I think he's a very aggressive quarterback in that. I think it suits this team well. I think Stefanski, by and large, lets him take those shots too. It's by design. Okay, if it's not there, back off, but try it if it's there. And they do a really good job of that. And again, if they hit it a couple this week, I'm not sure that New England. Well, we have to couch this with the Browns defense and the inconsistent play that they've had. If the good Browns defense shows up, the Patriots offense is not going to be able to match that. If the not so good Browns defense comes out, we could have a shootout, and then you're going to have to hit every point that you can get.
Well, the other thing, Baker Mayfield completed passes to 8 different receivers. So Alex Van Pelt talked about distributing the ball and what that means to this Browns offense.
Just letting the coverage dictate where the ball goes has a lot to do with that. I think we've been pretty good for the most part of the season. I think there was a game where we actually spread it to 10 different guys. So everybody's involved in the pass game. It's just a matter of what the coverage does that dictates where that ball should go. I think, we want to definitely put it in all our guys' hands. We have a lot of confidence in our guys. There are certain guys you would highlight in certain situational, situations in the game, and we definitely have those as well. But for the most part, we feel comfortable with, all 3 of our tight ends, our whole receiving crew, our backs out of the backfield. Yeah, we feel good about getting the ball to all those guys.
And again, that's the way this offense is built to work. What is the defense giving you? Go take it.
And Baker, for the most part, has been very good about that his entire career, and not just locking in on one guy. That's why one guy isn't in Cleveland anymore, or part of the reason anyways. There's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, I like the idea of being able to spread it around and take what the defense gives you, but be aggressive with it. If they're maybe giving you something down the field, you got to at least try it. With the way that the officiating goes this year, although it doesn't typically go in Cleveland's favor, you can get a pass interference call that can change a game or change a drive. So they do have to take some chances. And I do think that Baker has done a really good job, especially in the last 2 or 3 games, of balancing that need to be aggressive and challenge a little bit with also playing it safe and doing what the defense, if they're single covering a guy out of the backfield and you have an advantage, you take advantage of that. But you can't eschew the chances down the field. And I think they're in a really good spot at that right now. I really do. And I like the balance of that. As I said earlier, I think this is a big game for the tight ends, because if you can have multiple tight ends attack the Patriots, they're good at taking away one. They're not so good at taking away 2 or 3, and it forces them to go in different sub-packages. It takes their nickel cornerback off the field if you're running your 12 personnel or even 13 personnel. That puts the Browns at a distinct advantage because the Browns' number 3 tight end is a lot better than their 5th or 6th linebacker, and that's. I'm going to trust that Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt are smart enough to know that too.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Jeff mentioned a wide receiver that's not here. Odell Beckham Jr. has a new home. He's with the Rams. We'll talk about that. We'll also dive a little deeper into the matchup with the Patriots. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
So welcome back to Sports4CLE. A little bit ago, just before we went on the air, it became official. Odell Beckham Jr. Going to the Los Angeles Rams. That means Matthew Stafford will be his quarterback. He will be the clear-cut number 2 receiver to Cooper Kupp. And maybe even the third, as you got Robert Woods as well there. But Jeff Risdon, you go to a quarterback who's a veteran, who's got a strong arm. An offensive-minded coach who's pretty good at figuring out how to get the ball into people's hands, would seem to be a pretty good spot for him.
Stafford with the Lions for many years. I'm a big fan. He's a very good quarterback. I wonder how that dynamic is going to go because, like you said, Cooper Kupp is the reigning NFC Offensive Player of the Month. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL this year. Robert Woods, not chopped liver. Van Jefferson, by the way, their number 3 receiver, has played very well when given chances to do it. So I'm curious as to how Odell's going to fit in there. He chose to go there. I think that's something that's important. The Packers were very highly in on him, from what we understand. In fact, our little behind-the-scenes communication about writing it up, we had our Packers Wire editor also pre-write that Odell was coming there, and we had to hold and chop that off. Little look behind the scenes of what we do. I think, look, I wish Odell well. I do. I feel like Baker does. I feel like, it was good to have him here. It was a good experiment. It just didn't work. And I wish him well. I don't hold it against him, but I also don't think that it's necessarily a given that it's going to work. Stafford's a very different kind of guy. I'm not sure that Odell is going to be the kind of guy that he necessarily gets along with all that well. But it's interesting. And you look at the Rams now, just a quick diversion onto them. They trade for Von Miller. They bring in Odell Beckham Jr. Have you ever seen an NFL team go as all in and be as open about it as what the Rams have been this year? That's personally, I hope that the Cleveland teams at some point get to that point. I know the Browns don't necessarily need to be there, but if the Cavs keep going the way they're going, and I'm really excited about the Cavs. We saw some Indian teams that tried to do it in the past. I just want to be a team that is in position to go all in like that. That's fun. If you're and again, the other thing, LA, very apathetic fan market. They're not a fan base that draws into the stars like that. I mean, LeBron James is out there and he's just sort of another face in the crowd. That might be a good situation for Odell to be more removed from New York, a little bit removed from Cleveland, where the spotlight. I don't want to say the spotlight got to him, but. It was, I think, a little bit brighter than he expected it to be. Los Angeles is a place, he's not even the 3rd biggest star in his own team right now. So it's an interesting fit. It really is. We'll see how it works. Again, I wish them well, and as a Matthew Stafford fan, I hope it works because I want to see that guy have some success. I really do.
The other thing is Deshaun Jackson was there, and they just released him. So there's a veteran who is kind of checked out, and I'm not saying Odell Beckham Jr. and Deshaun Jackson are the same, but it doesn't always work out. All right, let's turn
It's definitely something to watch, yeah.
Let's turn our attention to Browns-Patriots game. What do you, when you look at this, keys to this, how do you think this one plays out? Who do you think comes away with this? And let's assume, for the sake of conversations, that Nick Chubb is not able to go. And again, we don't know anything. Let's assume the worst. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to go when you're facing the Patriots anyways. Look, Mac Jones is a good quarterback. For all the knocks that he took in the draft process, he's played really well. And he's the kind of quarterback that can give the Browns problems because he's not a guy who makes mistakes with the football. The Browns defense, when they take the ball away, when they can pressure the opposing quarterback into mistakes, they're pretty good at that. That's not what Mac Jones does. So they're going to have to make plays. They're going to have to get to him, make them one-dimensional, shut down the throws to the running backs and the running back stretch plays, the jet sweeps that they like to do to keep that off balance. They're not a good running team, but they make up for it by being a good screen and swing pass team. That's where Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah comes in. That's where a guy like John Johnson, who's played really well the last couple of weeks, that's where his game needs to step up. I think that the Browns can outscore them in that way. If they get a turnover or two, I really like the Browns' chances. But the Patriots, look, they're not a team that's going to beat themselves most weeks. And offensively, you're going to have to hit on one of those shots down the field. If Anthony Schwartz gets 5 yards behind the defense, Baker's got to hit him, and he's got to catch it. You can't make mistakes against this team because they will make you pay. You've got to take advantage of your opportunities. I like what I saw from the Browns last week against the Bengals. Unfortunately, one of the things we've learned this year in the NFL is that you can't really carry over from one week to another, from pretty much any team, based on what we've seen. I mean, the Jaguars go out and win a game after they look like the worst team in football. You got to be careful. I do like the Browns. I think the X's and O's favor them, but New England is not going to be easy. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for Mac Jones, and I will always respect Bill Belichick for what he does. But the Browns do have enough weapons, even without Chubb, to go in and outscore this Patriots team. And I think I'm looking at 24-17, 20-16, something like that as a final score.
Yeah, I think it's going to be relatively low scoring, and I agree with you. I think they find a way to win this game, and it is a much-needed game. I mean, both are 5-4 in that AFC. They got to start stacking some wins together. Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. As always, Jeff, man, appreciate the time and the insight.
Thanks.
All right, Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. Make sure you read him online. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out on the other side of the break. Ashley Bastock joins us, the newest Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. We'll continue to talk Browns as they get ready for the Patriots. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions, lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Patriots in Foxborough, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt talked about the fact that Dearness Johnson might have to be the lead block if Nick Chubb can't go on Sunday. And Browns seem to be fine. They have a lot of faith in Dearness Johnson. Here's Alex Van Pelt.
It's definitely a good feeling to know there's a guy there that's been productive every time he's really touched the ball for us. Even last week, I mean, he had some tough looks there at the end of the game when they were bringing one more than we could block, and he was making guys miss. And, I feel very confident he'll come out and perform for us like he has in the past if he needs to.
Let's welcome in Ashley Bastock, reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. New to cleveland.com, the Plain Dealer. Worked at the Beacon Journal, went to John Carroll, so local gal. Ashley, thanks for the time. What about it? Dearness Johnson, if they have to go, how good of hands are they in?
Well, thank you for having me on, first of all. But, I think from hearing Alex Van Pelt talk today, from hearing Dearness Johnson talk a little later in the day, this is a guy who has basically spent his whole career waiting to get ready for that opportunity and performing when it's given to him. So even though the Browns are kind of in flux right now, we heard earlier today, it's still a possibility Nick Chubb plays. No one knows for sure who's going to be out there yet when it comes down to it on Sunday. But Dearness Johnson says he's ready for no matter what his role ends up being, that each day he just goes out and practices as if he's the top guy and as if he's going to see reps that day, meaningful reps. And truthfully, I think that's what put him in such a good position going into that Denver game. And he says he's ready to do it again if he has to against the Patriots.
And you know what? He's done it. He did it last year too. So we should believe him. All right. So this is very interesting. So highest graded wide receivers against single coverage in the NFL. Now the sample size is not equal, but you've got DK Metcalf, 93.6 PFF grade, Jamar Chase, 92.6, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, 92.6, the same grade, Pro Football Focus grade, as Jamar Chase against single coverage. And Ashley, I know you're somebody that is familiar with DPJ and sees some of the good things that he can do.
Yeah, I covered DPJ when he was in college his last year at Michigan at one of my previous jobs with the Toledo Blade. And quite honestly, at the time the Browns drafted him, I thought that was such a solid steal, knowing what he was capable of. And, his career at Michigan was not a storybook career. He didn't live up to the lofty expectations that he had as the number one receiver in his high school class while he was there. But truthfully, I thought he just needed the right system. He needed some continuity in a system. And in Cleveland, he's found just that. He has an opportunity, I think, every week to get meaningful reps out on the field. And when he does, he's efficient with those. So I think that explains that high grade that you were just talking about there, even though I think he only had 3 targets against the Bengals, but he made 2 catches and obviously that long touchdown score that he had. So overall, I just think he's found the perfect home in this offense and with Kevin Stefanski. And Baker Mayfield seems to like throwing him the ball, and he keeps delivering for him in the clutch. So you can't really ask for more than that if you're DPJ, and he's made the most, in a lot of ways, like Dearness Johnson, with the opportunities that he's been given by the Browns.
And those opportunities are only going to grow with Odell Beckham gone and out of the picture. So it's likely going to be DPJ and Jarvis Landry as your leading wide receiver. So there's a huge opportunity for him to take advantage of that's kind of staring at him right now.
Yeah, and what's so interesting too, from knowing him back in those college days, he looked up to guys like Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. And from talking to, one of his best friends on that Michigan team, it's like they would talk about emulating them even back in college when they're 18 years old and finding out what drills they're doing and being best friends together on the same team. Like it really, he had modeled so much of his pre-NFL football career after what Jarvis Landry and OBJ did, that now the fact, obviously OBJ's not here anymore, but the fact that he's gotten to spend so much time with those guys and especially learn from a guy like Jarvis Landry, who we all know how respected he is, not just as a receiver, but from the leadership side of things, I think that really you cannot understate how important that's been for OBJ's development and the way he's just had such a hot start in his career in the NFL.
So let's switch it up a little bit. JOK back on the field practicing. Still not 100% certain he's going to go, but certainly looks like he might. He talked to the media about staying prepared and what he did to make sure when that ankle's ready to go, he doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, well, you said one of them is definitely note-taking, making sure that you continue to stay locked in and still have that laser focus. It's the ability to, set boundaries, set disciplines, set certain times for different things so that you don't get out of whack during those free times. So it's just, compartmentalizing, taking everything in different categories and being able to make sure that you do and everything that you need to do and pay attention to the details. So in college, in my early years, as every freshman does, kind of struggles with the playbook a lot. And so, I gained some tips, from, Coach Lee and things like that. So I started to just color code all my things, set them in different sections, all the man calls here, man pressures here, zone calls, palms fire, things like that. So separated in different categories. And, that's kind of where it roots from.
And Ashley, it was impressive for a rookie to understand the mental preparation. He was talking about the note-taking so he could organize everything he had in his mind. It was impressive.
The note-taking tidbits from today with JOK were probably my favorite thing that we got out of availability. We talked to defensive coordinator Joe Woods earlier in the day, and he was the one who brought that up. I think I asked him about what JOK's been doing. He's been so unlucky this year with some of these injuries. He's gotten illness, winding up with COVID-19 before. I asked him just how does he manage to stay ready? And as a rookie, that must be very tough. So Joe Woods brought up this note-taking system. So of course we had to ask JOK for more details on that. And the way he was explaining it, it sounds like there's some intense color coding, but that's just the way he learns. He learns best when things are on paper and he's super organized. And I think that really explains why, even though he has missed significant chunks of time this season during the preseason and things like that, that he really hasn't missed a beat once he's returned to the field. He's been able to take tangible steps forward. And I think, the hope is that if he does play on Sunday, and he mentioned he's still hopeful he's going to be able to do that. It's not a for sure thing yet, but he does have that hope. I think everyone is kind of hopeful that he can continue to take those steps, even though, again, where he's coming off of a stint where he's had to miss some time due to that ankle injury.
Yeah, and he's a guy that definitely makes a difference when he is on the field and part of that defense. Ashley Bastock and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention a little more towards the Patriots-Browns matchup, getting ready for that kickoff. 1 o'clock, Foxborough on Sunday. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns and Patriots getting ready for a 1 o'clock matchup Sunday in Foxborough. Both teams 5-4 and needing this one. Wide receiver for the Patriots, Nelson Aguilar, talked about Denzel Ward, what he's seen from him, as well as this Browns defense as a whole.
We talk about him right there, special player. I think he has great cover skills, great feet, great vision, and I think he has great ball skills too. I'll have to say his speed and his ability to cover is up there with some of the best, and I have a lot of respect for him. And it's just secondary and all, they brought in some guys that have played a lot of football, and I think they communicate well on the back end, and they're talented, so I have a lot of respect for them, and it's good to see a team like that on tape because you have to take your game to the next level when you see such discipline like that.
How tough are they on every level of their defense, whether it be the line, the linebackers, and the safeties and the corners?
They're legit on all three levels. I don't have to block these guys, but we know who they are when you talk about the pass rush. And I think at the linebacking, at the second level, they have great speed, good size and speed. So you have to respect them. I think the organization have done a good job of putting together quality defense, and it showed with their record and their performance on tape.
And Ashley, did you catch the smile when he said he didn't have to block the guys, but he knows their name? The defense seemed to play more aggressive last week. At least that was my sense. Did you get that sense, or am I reading too much into it?
I don't think so. I've been thinking ever since that Bengals game that it looks like the defense may have finally clicked and really turned a corner. And again, we have to remember, they did that without JOK, and I think they only get more lethal if he is out there too, which is definitely probably scary for some opposing teams. But, the one thing that I'm especially watching for in this game is the Browns' run defense, especially, which, he alluded to there, is very good this year. They're like third in the league. They're giving up 84.8 yards per game right now. And the Patriots, we've talked earlier about the Browns having some issues at running back this week, but Damian Harris did not practice today for them, and neither did Ramondre Stevenson. So right now that leaves Brandon Bolden as their primary back. So if I'm the Cleveland Browns defense, I'm taking that momentum that I had from Cincinnati, and I'm just trying to make Mac Jones beat you, because there was potentially not going to be those top threats there at running back for the Patriots to make that offense a little bit more dynamic. So definitely, I think the defense is clicking at the right time going into this matchup.
When you look at that, when you look at the matchup with the Patriots, what do you think some of the keys are? What do the Browns need to do? This is a game they obviously need. The difference between 6-4 and 5-5, it's a lot more than that one game. It's a swing game, if you will.
Yeah, I think so much of it depends on who actually plays, but the bottom line is they need some playmakers out there, whether it's Ernest Johnson, whether it's Nick Chubb. They're going to need guys to make some of those big chunk plays. We saw Baker Mayfield look downfield for some of those vertical plays a little bit more last week. That's also something they're going to need on the offensive side. The defense, I think, just needs to do some of those things I was just talking about. They need to do what they do well. They need to carry some of that momentum over from Cincinnati, be strong in the secondary, obviously, and not let Mac Jones beat you, and let their front seven do what they do in terms of that defending that run game. So overall, I think they really just need to carry over a lot of what they did against Cincinnati and prove that wasn't a mirage, that they've made tangible steps as a team and really made some improvements, especially since that Steelers game a couple weeks ago.
The other guy that really has started to play very well, in addition to Denzel Ward, John Johnson III, it seems like, and I don't want to be critical of Joe Woods, it seems like he's using him a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage and in situations that he can be more effective and make more of an impact in, at least the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think this was kind of always what they envisioned when they signed him, right? That aggressiveness and being able to force turnovers. And we saw that against the Bengals. And truthfully, I think some of the defensive issues earlier in the year had a lot to do with injuries. And for once, they're mostly healthy. Again, JOK notwithstanding. But I really think he's just finally in a groove with the guys he's playing with, and he's able to be aggressive and know the finer points of their defensive scheme. And he's able to go out there and make some of those plays happen, like he did with that interception and forcing that fumble last week.
Do you think they come away with a win? I mean, I won't ask you necessarily for a score, but it's one the Browns really need, much like last week. Do you think they find a way to win this on the road against a very good Patriots team?
I do, and I'll give you a score actually, because we just recorded our picks episode of our Orange and Brown podcast earlier this afternoon. And I believe I said Browns 23-17. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. These are two very defensive oriented teams right now. The Browns I think are better than the Patriots in just about every category statistically, but the Patriots still in the top half of the league there, and they're going to need a strong defensive performance if they are going to beat the Browns. So I do think the Browns are going to come away with a win. I think they have enough momentum after last week. And even if guys aren't, able to play because of that COVID-19 list, if they're not activated in time, I do think that this team, no matter what, is at its best when its back is against the wall. And they are viewed as underdogs going into this, I think, regardless. So that can only be good for them in a lot of ways, I think.
I agree with you. I think they win a fairly low-scoring game, and it's going to be a close game. And it's going to be one that's, is going to have some moments where you kind of go, but I think the Browns end up coming out with it. Ashley Bastock, appreciate the time and the insight. Hopefully we have you on pretty much every week. But thanks very much. Appreciate it, Ashley.
Thanks.
All right, Ashley Bastock, again, reader in the pages of The Plain Dealer as well as on cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you again back here tomorrow. Scheduled guests, Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com and The Plain Dealer, and Sam Penix from Pro Football Focus tomorrow at 4. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone.